He's a Muslim author. His name is Edip. Are you there?
Yes, I am.
Hi, you're on with Matt and Muhammad Syed.
How's it going?
Hi, peace. My name is Edip Yüksel. Muhammad Syed, do you know me?
The name rings a bell, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I have translated the Quran into two languages, Turkish and English. English Quran, a reformist translation.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, I'm watching the video at the same time. It's not synchronized.
Yeah, that's a bad idea. You should probably turn off the video and just pay attention to the phone.
Yeah, first of all, I'm saying I want to bifurcate the issue in two different issues. I think when we look at it locally, internally, religion, especially today, Sunni and Shiite, different religions, I don't call them Islam, they are very oppressive and against freedom of expression and very harmful to the growth of individual freedom and happiness of individual and society. However, in international arena, I see not that it is really religion, it is the biggest menace. It is the military-industrial complex and nationalism, because when you look at the number of people killed and tortured in the name of countries, nations, it is far way beyond the so-called terrorist groups, what they were doing. And in fact, they are the ones who are really causing the international terror. However, I am with you regarding the oppressive nature of religions, and today 57 so-called Muslim countries, they are backward. They span from just North Africa to all the way to Philippines, and 3 continents and different very nationalities, ethnic groups, but they all suffer from the same problem: oppressive, intolerant, backward, superstitious. And I am with you, and I believe that atheists, though recently one of my books, my most recent book is 19 Questions for Atheists. I wrote this one in Turkish. I am the last person who will stand that there is God. I am not a believer. I know that there is God. I have debates with many atheists, with, in fact, American Atheist Organization, with the president of that, with Carl Sagan, with Dr. Michael Shermer. But I do believe atheists serve a very good function, especially in the Muslim world, to make people question their dogmas. Therefore, I applaud you.
Thank you. I would disagree with some of your premises, though, regarding, say, military violence. I agree that that's a huge issue, and that if you're just looking at lives taken, you can use that as a metric, but that's not the only metric. How many people are dying because of lack of care? And how many people are dying because industries don't exist in those countries where they could exist, because people are so steeped in dogma that they aren't moving forward. Speaking of Pakistan, for example, we're still based in where our production is largely raw materials. We're not doing anything. We're not inventing anything. Compare that with America, where Apple is worth $800 billion because of the fact that they're inventing, they're pushing boundaries. Without science, without all of these other things, our countries are going to go further and further back, and they have been. And people, if there's no money, everybody will suffer, everybody will die. The issue is much larger than just how many people are directly being killed by a certain group. There are a lot of secondary effects that happen due to people believing in superstition. The ledger of religion, from my perspective, is much, much larger than we give it credit for.
I do agree, but 1 million people being killed in Iraq based on lies. In fact, it was mostly from Saudi Arabia, 15 people from Saudis, sure, none from Iraq. And knowing the fact that Saddam was initially supported by U.S. and he was used against Iran when he killed Kurdish people, gassed them to death, United States, Rumsfeld, shaking hands with this guy, and later...
I completely agree. The Iraq War was completely... I'm an anti-war.
And they killed that, and they created ISIS. Basically, ISIS is a side effect of the incredible, brutal occupations and destruction of lives. And then here we are attacking Muslims which I don't agree with them. I don't follow the Sunni and Shiite religions. I'm considered as a heretic. They want to kill me. However, I think it is not fair to blame them for the problem that is mostly created by invasion. When you look at the countries
I disagree
where
entirely.
the terrorist group grow, mostly they are the countries who are invaded by either Russia, by the United States. And the studies show, by Chicago University, professor made studies, find out that there is strong correlation between international terrorism and occupations, imperialistic occupations. We need to see that. You need to be objective regarding your reaction. Otherwise,
terrorism is a small part of the problem. Even if we put aside terrorism entirely, all the other issues are bigger than that. We're looking at terrorism and focusing on it because it's affecting the West. But the day-to-day activities, the day-to-day harms that religion is causing are far, far worse. So terrorism is just a small metric from my perspective.
And I think we're talking about, a couple different things. People are going to focus on different aspects of the problem. But you point out that you're, not Sunni, not Shia, you're heretical. But you also said that you're not a believer. You know that a God exists. So I'm curious, not to kind of derail a serious discussion about world stuff. How is it that you know God exists, and what do you know about God?
Well, I teach philosophy as part-time. I am writer full-time, and I'm a lawyer by education. I know what I am saying when I say I know there is God. And I don't know whether now, through this phone, I don't feel kind of face-to-face, we could discuss this. I had, if you are interested, here is my suggestion. I would like to have later join you to discuss this issue, because it is not just with one word if I tell you, because there are so many false ideas around that is assumed to be true, even by atheists. And I do argue that.
I'm not quite sure what you mean. So I think I'm following. You say there's many false ideas around that are assumed to be true even by atheists, but I'm not trying to get you to talk about something that you're not prepared to talk about that would take longer than a phone call. I'm just saying, how is it that you know that what's true versus false in the things that people are believing?
Okay. Well, one thing that we see, there are laws in the nature. There are matter, energy, and laws in the nature. We know now that it started about 13.8 billion years ago, correct? And in fact, everything, we see deterministic laws, unless you enter inside the atom in quantum level. There are deterministic laws all over. And therefore, the question is, whatever we have now, all the devices we have, all the beautiful brains that now both of you, that you have, all the cells, everything, all the atoms, they are the consequence of whatever happened in the first second or millisecond of the singularity. Correct?
Okay. Well, I will go along with that, but the one thing is when you start talking about laws, I mean, these laws are descriptive and not prescriptive. It's not like...
Of course.
Okay.
Of course. But it is there. It is prescribed over us.
No, not prescribed over us. They are descriptive. Okay, but I'll let you make your point. Go ahead.
Okay. If you watch my debate with Dr. Silverman, he's the president of American Atheist.
He's not a doctor.
He's
not a doctor. David's a friend of mine. I'm on the board for American Atheists.
I don't know what. I thought he was a doctor. It was given that anyway.
No.
He may not be a doctor. I don't know whether you get along with him or not. But I had a very good debate with him, about 1.5 hours. It is on YouTube, and also with Michael Shermer. I don't know whether you know him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did not do well because he was not ready, and he knew the consequences. He knew the subject, and he didn't fare well. And I had this issue also a long time ago, before internet was common, with Dr. Sagan. He was Carl Sagan. He was at Cornell University. At that time I was doing my thesis in philosophy. Mm-hmm. I know about, in fact, in the past I invited Dawkins for a debate. He asked for $25,000 $25,000 donation for his foundation. I said, no, not 25 pennies. I will not donate money for a debate.
Wait, you offered Dawkins money to debate?
No. When I invited Dawkins to debate because I think that he was engaging in debate with straw men. And this is my English may not be that good, but I know the subject pretty well.
Well,
and,
I don't understand this money thing that you mentioned, because first of all, Richard doesn't actually debate.
$1,000 donation to his foundation so that he would accept the public debate. And then I rejected. I said, nope, I will not. I will not make donation, even 25 cents.
Oh, he wanted you to make a $25,000 donation?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in London with Richard next Sunday, and it'll be me and Richard and Sam Harris sitting on stage talking about issues.
I like him. Let me tell you, and I prefer atheists much better than dogmatic people or organized religions. But I know that there is God, and I have very powerful arguments. And when I discussed this with Carl Sagan, after 2 rounds, Carl Sagan, which I like about him, he said, of course I might be wrong, but we didn't continue that time.
All of us will concede that we can be wrong.
Yeah.
No atheist will say that I know all the truth and I am perfectly true.
If you have, Udit, if you have such powerful arguments,
yes, I do.
Why aren't they the premier arguments that are used by every theist that I debate or that anybody else debates?
It is my the strongest argument I have is based on number 19 in the Quran. It is not numerology. It is not something that you can confuse it with so-called Bible code, all those Kabbalah lies. It is.
So here's the thing.
You just said that you don't believe in Islam. You only believe in a gods, and you're using the Quran.
I didn't say that.
But if you think you said your strongest, you said you said your strongest argument is based on number 19 in the Quran. That's like saying my strongest argument is based on episode 345 of Star Trek.
It seems like, it appears like, you may laugh at it, but it is not.
Well, you have to assume, so the truth is independent. Like if there's no Quran, would you be able to prove a God? Because if you say that it's based on Quran, Surah 19, then that is assuming that there is something that we know to be true about Surah 19. And hang on. And if it's true, then Surah 19 is irrelevant, and it's just that fact. So it would be much better if there is a fact that happens to be in the Quran, which is true, which serves as the foundation for your argument, if you said, my best argument is based on this particular fact.
Yes, it is verifiable, falsifiable fact.
What's the fact?
The fact is about the mathematical structure in the Quran is impossible to be fabricated by humans. That's the argument.
Let's assume for a second that I would agree with you that it can't be fabricated by humans. How does that prove that there's a God?
That's a beautiful question. If you study it, you'll find that there is no, of course, and I do understand your reaction, but if you really study it, you will find that it is not the way what you assume. It is a verifiable, falsifiable. You know, the maxim, the atheistic maxim, the extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and it is an extraordinary evidence.
But it's this is the problem. You say you have your best argument from God is based on this, and then when I drill down, you provide that essentially the fact that you think is true, which I reject, but even if I accepted it, the fact that the Quran couldn't have been written by human beings, even if I accepted that is true, that does not prove that any particular God exists.
It's true. It's true in this sense. If you study it, if you come to that conclusion, the extraordinary nature of it, then you will also witness the truthfulness of it.
I'm afraid you're not. I'm afraid you're not understanding the point here.
I can say that it was written by Yoda. How do you disprove? What's the difference between Yoda and God?
Doesn't matter. Yoda, X, Y, Z. I'm not stuck with Allah or God or whatever. I'm not talking about vibrations of sounds or letters. I'm talking about beyond human, the one that controls also time and makes a prophecy 1400 years,
Okay.
specific time, the time in...
Edip, how did you rule out Doctor Who?
Who is Doctor Who?
Doctor Who is a time traveler.
Okay, it is Doctor Who. Okay, absolutely. Okay, you need to believe that.
Your God is Doctor Who?
Okay, listen carefully. First of all, you need to be honest. I am challenging you. I said this book is not, you don't need to believe in this book. We find this book somewhere. This is an extraordinary book, a book with mathematics in it embedded in human language, which is arbitrary. Mathematics, which is universal language, is integrated in such a level, you need to come out of this world. You need to find, you say Doctor Who, absolutely, it is your conclusion. Whether you will reach that conclusion, initially you think, you make fun of it, but you study it, you will not be thinking about Doctor Who because it is beyond human capacity.
Well, I appreciate the fact that you called, but we don't seem to be getting anywhere, and you just keep making assertions and kind of moving the goalposts on God.
Should I give you a few examples?
A few examples of what?
About what I'm talking about, because I didn't give any examples.
Why would I need an example? I'm happy to listen to an example, but this is the thing, Udit, this is the thing you're not getting. I'm happy for you to provide examples. I don't accept your thing, but what I pointed out was even if I agreed with you, that doesn't prove God. So what good is it to provide examples if this fact, even if I were to accept it for the sake of argument, doesn't prove that a God exists?
Well, let me tell you, if you make the fun, it will prove that the Quran was written by Doctor Who, not Muhammad. That's a good piece of information you will learn, okay?
No, you're not understanding. Okay, the Quran was either written by human beings or it was written by something other than a human being.
Yeah.
Even if I agreed with you that it wasn't written by human beings, how do you pick out which one of the things that aren't human beings actually wrote it?
Who are the not human beings, non-human beings?
Well, I'm not aware of any intelligence in the universe or outside the universe or anywhere else other than human beings that could be capable of that. But you don't get to just make one up and say, if it's this, how do you know it's not ancient aliens or time-traveling aliens or whatever,
then you will
hang on. Mm-hmm. This is the point I'm making. I don't agree with you that it couldn't have been written by humans. I'm happy to look into that, and maybe you could potentially convince me of that. But saying this couldn't have been written by human beings does not prove that it was written by God. You have to provide evidence for that particular proposition that God is the one and only explanation for the origin of this.
Yes.
How do you do that?
Yes. Well, you don't know even the evidence. It is too extra for you because you already have no information about it. You will only speculate.
I can't believe you teach philosophy. I cannot believe.
I do teach philosophy, and
you need to go back and restudy because I just laid this out very simply. There are two possibilities. Either it was written by humans or it was written by something other than humans, okay? Even if I were to agree with you that it wasn't written by humans, that doesn't tell me which of the things in the set of things that aren't human wrote it. You're making a claim that it was specifically written by God, and you are excluding other things that are in this set of non-humans, and you've offered no justification for why.
There is justification. Of course there is.
What is it?
Very obvious. Whatever I will tell you now, you are in a mode of bigotry and rejection.
I tell you, you're rejected now.
So that is the issue. So as soon as you disagree with Islam, it automatically comes to bigotry. A lot of Muslims do that, and people fall into that trap where they agree with them. Simply saying it's bigotry doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. So I didn't, I wasn't necessarily going to hold him to the fire, and evidently he's debated some people. But I challenge anybody on the planet to go through that conversation and point to things that were bigoted in there. And I'd like it if somebody could actually explain that dichotomy that I set up, how he ever remotely even attempted to address this, and saying, oh, well, you didn't give him a chance to present his evidence. No, that was evidence for this proposition, which I accepted for the sake of argument. There was no bigotry there. There was rejection there. because I have a mind that will reject unsupported assertions. I have a mind that will reject assertions of bigotry that actually don't exist. And I have a guest on the show whose time I'd rather not waste, even less than I want to waste my own time. So we'll move on to some other callers which may or may not touch on the topic.